Thank you for looking over us during this pandemic. We thank you for looking over our schools, looking over our children, and looking over our staffs. Father, we continue to bless you and praise you for all that you do. And now just be with us as we conduct our business. For we ask it all in Christ's name.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next document, ours next week, take his agenda. Can I borrow his agenda?
Need this?
I thought it was on here, but it's not. It's not showing up on mine. Our mission is to empower all students to reach their highest levels of achievement. Our vision is in partnership with community. The Wayne County school system will be a progressive system where all students acquire knowledge and skills to be productive, responsible, and successful citizens in a rapidly changing world. Our belief is every person is worthy of respect. Every person has the right to learn and work in a safe, nurturing environment. Every child learns when actively involved in educational experiences that reflect the uniqueness of each student's abilities. Every child will be encouraged and supported to become a lifelong learner and preparing for a rapidly changing world. Everyone learns best when they are engaged participants in their learning. Literacy is the foundation of education. Family, school, and community are responsible for the growth, development, and the success of its students.
Motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Move to second.
Mr. Ellis?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Harris?
Yes, ma'am.
Daniel?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion to approve the minutes from September 8th.
So moved.
Second.
Move to second.
Mr. Ellis?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Davidson?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Harris?
Yes, ma'am.
Daniel?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sept?
Yes, ma'am.
Public participation.
We do have two.
Okay. Mr. Tyrone McGill.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
We are just about authorized with the school open wing. We formed a committee 2 years ago. We had, I think it was like 25 members. And we want to use that for a community center. And I went by and talked to Mr. J. I went by and talked to Jay on it, and I told him what we was planning on doing, and he felt like it was a good idea. And I hadn't heard from him on it, so I just want to know why I hadn't heard it from him on that topic. It's a historical site, and not only with the staff that we put together, I also got big brother and big sister Wayne County that I am the president of, and we willing to take on that project. And but I never did hear anything from Jay on it, and that's what I want to. After seeing this, that they was trying to do something with it, and I done went through all of that, and I talked with you on it, and I never did hear anything about it. So we still interested in it, and we got the staff to get it going. Any questions?
Nope, and I'll just echo this. He probably hasn't followed back up with you on it because once we talked about it, we never brought it back up for another discussion until tonight. This was kind of pre-COVID discussion, and so it never came back up. We did send out some emails. We did look at some pricing, but we never brought it back up for discussion until tonight.
Well, this was 2018, January 2018. So it take that long to get back.
No, I'm not talking about previous to you. I mean, after your discussion, I'm saying we discussed it prior to COVID about getting the facility up to hard to be able to rent or to be able to lease out to somebody.
But I also mentioned to Jay as well, when I was in his office, I said, well, you can let us get it for $1. And he kind of like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. But like I said, I never heard anything coming home. And next thing I know, they were wrestling me. So, you gotta communicate to let us know something what's going on. But we willing to take on it, and, just let us know something. We got enough staff for it. We 501(c) certified, so we got everything in place to handle the task. And it is historical, so we want to keep that in the community. Thank you.
Tyrone, I got a question, please.
Yes, sir.
We did a study, Ms. Daniel asked Dr. Brinson to look at the cost to renovate. Do you remember the quote, the amount? It was substantial.
It was a little over 200 and something thousand. That was with, an outside entity. The people that was on their committee, you had people that dealt with construction, you had people that dealt with, that were, not just construction people, that people that's over the construction. And you had people who were familiar with remodeling, building things, and so that possibility was there.
Also, we have grant writers as well.
Have what?
Grant writers.
293,000.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is y'all gonna pick that bill up now?
Yes, sir.
Because, I'm gonna be honest with you, I go back to the old red barn and all that, there's a lot of history behind that, and at some point, when it costs more to keep it up than it's worth, then you have to move on. We're in the business of educating kids, and so if y'all can come up with the money and make it go, then I don't have no problem with it. Now, we're not gonna be able to, we're getting some shortfalls now too.
I mean, that's what I talked to him about.
Okay.
We want to take on.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Nobrando?
I drafted a memo. Who I need to do this?
Yeah.
You.
Like Mr. McGill said, I'm a part of that committee as well. We're just asking. There was some rumors out in the community that they were looking at tearing it down or selling it. So, as the memo said, we're asking for 90 days just to put a plan together in order to utilize it. Because we understand that Scriven and Oldham have auditorium, and that they got donations or they got funding from the board. So we're gonna ask for a small percentage from the board to help with the educational part of it. Because looking at that school, I went to that school back in 1991 and 92. I'm 38. And also I ran, me and Mr. McGill, along with others, ran a food program this summer. And looking at the spacing, we could use the old Martha Ross field, the building for educational purposes. Like with COVID going on now, if you got an overpopulated classroom, with it being a former school, then it does have technology in there, so we possibly use that, use certain areas, means. But my main focus is, we just want a 90-day extension on a decision being made. So that we can come back with a proposal with architecture, the funding, and whatever else needed. We just want an opportunity to talk. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Here's my point, that, we were looking at trying to renovate. The roof, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Brinson, the roof leaks in one of them. The air conditioners have been vandalized and stripped of copper, so That was just to replace that short wing, to renovate that, is that right?
That's what we, unfortunately.
So, I mean, I think y'all need to walk through it with somebody and look and see what you're getting into.
How,
Go
can we
from
schedule
there.
a time to do that?
Sir,
Can we schedule a time to do a walkthrough?
it was Dr. Brinson, not me.
You know, I was always taught, when you talk to somebody, you looking directly at them.
Right. I don't know where, I'm not trying to be the devil. That, what I'm saying is that when we were looking at it, it was gonna be a lot of money
Yes.
to get it back up to speed.
Yes.
So,
Like, but anything, you know, it's an area, you have a lot of areas that, you know, you could potentially use some of these grants to build for the future. Because as we see now, Jessup is expanding. You get Popeyes, like I said, I'm 38. The closest Popeyes, when I started driving, was behind me. So now we got Popeyes in Ackley, in Waycross, and whatsoever. So with with Jessup changing, we need to change this community. Because the community center will service everyone, not just one particular entity. So that's our goal, that's our vision. Thank you for your time.
Discussion and information.
All right, I think Ms. Suzette Form has some information she's gonna share with her DUI and subject counseling, and thought this meshed well with our, new student drug testing policy that we'll be kicking off here. There's got a lot, real strong counseling aspect to the policy, so we do need something to kind of hang our hat on, and we're, you want to kind of look at.
Yeah. There you go.
Hello, everyone. Like you said, this is, my name is Suzette Formey, and I actually have a DUI class here in Wayne County. I'm a resident here. I actually graduated from Wayne County High in 1986, kind of tell my age. I also have a bachelor's degree in accounting. I've been working as an employee at Flexi in Brunswick for about over 10 years. So like I said, I'm an instructor. I own the business, directed also, and we've been doing that since 2018, for over 2 years. The school is certified, a state certified, approved Georgia DBS, DUI risk reduction school. We serve more than just Wayne County. Actually, some of the schools closed, so we're able to service other counties also. My passion and desire to help deter the students as far as drug and alcohol by deriving at this program. I lost 3 of my siblings to alcohol and drugs. So that's why I have such a passion to actually, help the community, not only the adults. We see lots of young kids come through the DUI, but not just alcohol, but drugs, and it's getting, really bad. So I think it needs to actually start before they get a DUI and they're actually grown adults. So if we can actually do something now and help the school system to actually deter them from the drug and alcohol, that's what we want to do. The instructors are trained and certified, and we have a curriculum that we actually, I don't know who has the book, we have a 420 curriculum that was developed by Crime for Life. That's a book actually specifically for the teens. The Crime for Life 420 is database, drug alcohol awareness curriculum by the Prevention Research Institute from Lexington, Kentucky. The program addresses psychological, physical, and social aspects of chemical dependency. The 420 curriculum is geared to allow teens to evaluate their choices and assist them with developing ways to reduce high-risk behaviors and in effect to remain safe and drug-free. I'm asking that the Wayne County School System place the DUI Risk Reduction School of Wayne County as one of the facilities that the students who tested positive on the random drug screen can choose to use to satisfy their drug awareness requirements. This will benefit both the students and the school system as are vested in the future of Wayne County as a native and concerned citizens. So I just thank you all for considering that. On that back page, you'll see where I outline some objectives and some goals that I would like to work with you all to kind of reach. The program will consist of 3 classes that will last for 2 hours. The Prime for Life 420 curriculum. And the reason why we thought about this was the class will be taught in 3 consecutive weeks. We have chosen to complete the class in 3 sessions instead of one day, the 6-hour course. It's because it could promote retention and concept of positive behavior instead of just one time and they just kind of forget about it. I think alone, maybe on a Saturday, a couple of hours, just kind of making sure that they get everything. The students will be required to attend all 3 sessions in their entirety to receive their certifications. And students will, of course, like I do all of my DUI classes, to be on time, to actually make sure that we're teaching responsibility and accountability, before they actually depart. And I would love for you all to join with me to actually, so we can help with this teen awareness program. Y'all have any questions?
Ms. Stormy, what kind of cost would be involved?
We're actually trying to get that. I charge $360 for my DUI classes, and this will not be from about from 100, 125 because we do have a book that the books are like 25. We have to make sure I have instructors that will be teaching the class, and I have to consider that. But we're not trying to go over probably 125 a class. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll just say that, I think that's a good, outline program, and we as a board have identified that, this is important to us. We've spent, a little over a year, talking about drug testing and we realize that it is a problem, and we want to help our kids, and this is a good opportunity for us to be able to provide a resource for them to connect, and having that, that 3-week class is really good. So I hope that Dr. Brinson and Dr. McDaniel can sit down and talk with you about it, and we can move forward with getting this as a resource for us here in the school system.
I would love to sit down with you all. My number is on that sheet. You can reach out to Ms. Daniels, Mr. Ellis also. You can contact me. So, any other discussions, please let me know.
And for transparency purposes, I am going to tell you that I am an employee of Ms. Foreman, who's also my neighbor. And how that came about was she needed another instructor, and I'm retired, and she says that would be perfect. And she told me about the curriculum, and she let me look at the book, and I looked at the book. I said, I taught this in ADAP for over 20 years. And she's the one that brought it to me about, the doing this for the kids. I never brought anything up to her. She asked me about it, and I said, that would be a good idea, which I explained to her. There's a possibility I may myself not be able to teach. I'm not sure if it's a conflict of interest. Even if I don't get paid, I'll still help her out. Because that's just a service to our kids, and and that's something that I have, and I appreciate her giving me the opportunity.
It's actually been in work since I put out the handbook, read it in there.
Okay.
And I started, kind of trying to get on the roster, actually, get an approval for it. So I really thank y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. We should be planning our first round pretty soon, Doctor.
This plan, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Excited. Thank you.
Thank you.
Suzette.
My husband and his wife. Yeah. My slide?
That's the old about talking.
Talk one, two.
So, Anthony, too.
Yes, Ms. Harrison from the high school has, our CTA director has a project and also wants, present her budget for the FY21 school year.
Good evening, everyone. My presentation has two parts, and both I'm seeking board approval for tonight. It's a request for modifications to the jacket zone, which is our school store at the high school, and the Perkins 5 program improvement budget proposal. The jacket zone store is an opportunity for our students in the entrepreneurship pathway to earn career and technical skills while working in a workplace setting. Students are placed through the work-based learning program, and they operate the store through all 4 lunches. In response to the pandemic, we sat down and discussed steps to take in order to ensure the safety for our students that enter the store. We are adhering to social distancing by practicing social distancing rules, restricting the number of students that are allowed in the school store, and placing markings on the floor outside the school store prior to them entering to maximize the space between the students. Once students enter the store, they're not able to touch the merchandise. They are immediately approach a counter to a student workers work there, and they give the merchandise to the students, so they're not touching anything. The issue that this presents, though, is that the school store is located inside the guidance department. So to access the store, students have to enter the guidance department, and if there's only 2 kids in the store, there's several kids that are outside. So, Ms. Renee, if you'll go to the next slide. My proposal here is that we're gonna move the access point from inside the guidance department to the commons area. So students would approach the school store window, and we would build or install a counter shelf roll-up door, similar to a concession stand. Individuals that pass the front office, when students are standing there, they have to pass all the kids that are in line. I'm concerned about the confidentiality in the guidance department and just the overall safety. So if we can move the access point out of the guidance department, we can avoid situations like this. So the entrepreneurship educator, the guidance department secretary, and all the administrators monitor these students. And it's a continuous process, 2 hours of monitoring students in the guidance department. So if we can move that access point to outside, it would be easier to mitigate the COVID-19 and maintain the confidentiality of the students that are in the guidance department. So I'm a visual learner, so I wanted to provide some visuals for you. This is the door that we are proposing. It's the Janus 650 model. And again, it's going to be installed on the inside of the school store. So if you go to the next slide, Ms. Renee, this is the, view of the school store from the commons area. So the door is 4 by 6. If you go to the next slide, it will take up those 3 panels that you see there. So my proposal after board approval tonight is that we will purchase the door, we'll pop out those 3 windows, build a simple frame on the inside of the school store, install the window, and students will access the store from the commons area. So we will no longer need to go inside the guidance department for students to enter the store. This will be a wonderful opportunity for our students in the construction pathway to gain some experience, of course, under the guidance of the maintenance department and the construction educator. But our level 3 kids could easily put in that frame, the 8-inch shelf that comes into the school store to support the window. And like I said, it would be a really good experience for them to practice some skills that they've learned in the classroom. So on the next slide, it's just a summary of the process. Get the approval, purchase the window, do the framing. The cost would be $1,200, which would be covered by the Jacket Zone store. The only cost to the school system, which would be an instructional activity, would be the framing, and that would be less than $100 in materials. Do y'all have any questions about the proposal?
Sounds good to me.
We do need, per policy, we do need board approval to do, this is a big enough alteration to the school building, so I think I asked her to come present this. Again, it's really no cost to the system, but it's a slight alteration, but it does satisfy, I think it's a great idea, it satisfies a lot of problems of people piling up inside of the guidance office, like you said, especially during this pandemic situation we have going on, so.
And it would mimic the pizza stand. It would be very simple for us if everybody was outside in the commons area for us to monitor.
And they could simply mark the floors, kind of like they in the lunchroom, like they got now, for us, lining them up, and be a little more orderly than what you saw on the slide inside the office area.
And I did outsource several vendors. I did compare when I looked at the quotes, and the $1,200 was the cheapest, or least expensive option.
I'll make a motion, we let them go with it.
The second.
Move to second. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, the second part of tonight's presentation is the Perkins 5 Program Improvement Budget. So the proposals for budgets for CTAE are gonna look a little bit different going forward, because Perkins 4 shifted to Perkins 5, and that's where we get our federal funding. Also, in response to the ESSA Act, the CTAE had to approach program improvement just as a regular LEA. So we conducted a comprehensive local needs assessment, and we completed a consolidated local application. We looked at all of our pathways and identified some areas in which we needed to improve based on external stakeholder input, both local and regional. So you'll see that from FY20, we took about $3,500 reduction in funds. However, I have already begun the process for 2 separate workforce development grants to offset that difference. So we actually received from the state $59,894. $8,000 of that I'm going to allocate to software equipment. Little bit above $13,000 will be for expendable equipment for our ag pathway and our healthcare pathway. And about $34,000 of that money will go to update 2 of our business labs that have not been updated in the last couple of years. And $5,000 for travel expenses. Now, I know that we don't have any travel, those expenses are professional development and CTSO opportunities. We don't have anything that we are doing this first semester, but we did spend almost $13,000 last year in Perkins money for travel. So that $5,000 is a reasonable amount if everything resumes and back in second semester. And of course, $100 for audit costs. So the requirement for Perkins 5 is to get board approval for our funds, and so that's what I'm seeking tonight.
Need a motion?
Make a motion, we accept the proposal.
Move to second.
Mr. Ellis,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Davidson,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Harris,
Yes, ma'am.
Daniel,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Smith.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, y'all. These improvements will be really good for our pathways and increasing the opportunities that we provide our students, just with professional development for our teachers and equipment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. It's just your hard work leadership. I just want to update everybody on the COPS grant. If you recall, back in March, we entered into a intergovernmental agreement with the city of Jessup, the police department, and the district attorney's office involved as well. This is a federal grant where we were seeking really 75% of the cost for an additional resource officer to service the middle schools. Long story short, we were not awarded that grant, but we feel like we're in a good place that we can reapply. So I just want to update you, that's not going to take place this school year. So now we're back to our old model of trying to schedule some support instead of out that in the middle schools. And of course, we always have calls for service if need be. But I also remind you that our 3-year contract expires with the Jessup Police Department, the city of Jessup, with our loan resource officer that we have at the high school. So that's something we'll need to discuss in budget talks going forward, decide if we can scope out money in our budget. Obviously, we have a new sheriff coming. We may want to consider revisiting the county's participation, just like the cities. I mean, they certainly have skin in the game. I don't know where they are, but that's something we probably want to revisit during our budget discussion. Any questions on that?
I'll just add to the resource officer, they awarded Savannah Chatham with 15 officers, and they're awarded in county with 8 officers. So that's just that. One of the things that they looked at was the crime statistics, and we don't have crime statistics like they have. So that's one of the
That's a
reasons.
good thing.
That is a good thing. I said, well, we'll take that loss on that, but they are going to send an official documentation with all that on it, and I'll email that to y'all. To wait to hear back from them.
Okay.
All right. Construction resolution, this is I have a resolution that I'd like to consider taking action on tonight. It's very simple, basically what it says, and according to all involved, they finally finished the punch list, and of course, was waiting on that play field, and some of the grassing areas is what was really holding up closing out the Martha Ross Smith project, but we're at the point to close out that project. There's a process you have to go through. This resolution is part of it. I'm not going to read it to you, see it for you, but it says it's completed. You'll notice also attached is a couple other documents, asbestos certification and certification from the architect that the project is complete. We have to, after you take action, we have to submit this to the Georgia Department of Education to draw down our last 10% of the state's participation in the project, which is a substantial amount, several $100,000, I believe. That would close that out, get our final money, goes back in our coffers, again, everything from the state on a reimbursable basis. So that would help our cash flow. Any questions on that? Yes.
Dr. Brinson, what came of did we withhold some funding from the company that was supposed to do the grassing and things, or how'd y'all resolve it?
They come back, been working on it. That's this reason it's taking so long to
Close it up.
to close it out, but we feel like this is at an acceptable level now.
Oh, okay.
So where
We're
we,
doing some things kind of on our own that we've talked about, like with the cleaning up that access road coming in, doing the curb and gutter, neatening that up, kind of and to help get some traffic off that 4th Street during pickup. Really, drop off's not an issue, but pickup in the afternoon, we got a few more cars. I feel like we have a little better stack off, and also that simple paved road, access road around the back, just kind of connecting the drives, because that soil is it's pretty tough when it gets wet. Even though there's grass back there, that's also the playground area. So that's in the works, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. That's connected to some of the capital projects. We're about to get a number on that.
So you feel like they've met their obligation? Is that what you're
Yes, sir, I
saying?
do.
Okay.
Of course, this has come from maintenance and Ray Morris, and he's the one chasing the punch list with Buckley's guys to go around and make sure that's what we're paying them for. But I do need action to move forward.
Look, I'll make a motion to accept the resolution of completion on Martha Ross Smith.
So,
Move to second.
Mr. Allen?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Davidson?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Harris?
yes, ma'am.
Daniel?
yes, ma'am.
Mr. McHutchins?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, now Old Martha R. Smith open wing area, we want to put this on here for discussion. Long story short, let me just remind everyone where we are with that area. As a public entity that handles public tax dollars, we don't have the latitude legally just to give a piece of property or really anything that we own, especially land or buildings, unless it's a governmental entity. That's not within the law according to our legal folks. Now, what we can do is rent things out or lease. That's also something we can do. The problem with the current facility is if we rent it out in the condition that it is, it's a liability issue. We talked about that before, so we're kind of stuck in this catch-22 of either somebody's got to fix the building up, and I certainly don't recommend us spending our dollars, budget dollars, to fix up a building that we're not utilizing for any purpose. We have buildings for children that we're utilizing, we need to maintain and improve. That's just my opinion, so.
So can,
So it's up to the board to give me some direction on what you'd like to see happening, because what's happening now is, it is sitting there and it is deteriorating. We do have roof issues, so the water damage is increasing. Anytime you have empty buildings, you're gonna have vandalism. And the liability of empty buildings is it worries me. It worries me. We dealt with the same thing at TG Ridge, any empty buildings we've had. Fortunately, we've been able to utilize the old band room that used to be empty, even the cafeteria has had some use. We've added volleyball and wrestling. So we've had an increased need to get people out of Wayne County High School gym, let the basketball program actually use their gym. So we are utilizing the old band room for competition cheer. The old Martha Ross Smith gym, we are using that for wrestling and also some cheer practices as well. So that those buildings are being used, but the back wing and the wing, I call it the old 4th and 5th grade wing, we're not using it all. We are using the lunchroom for our records, but we don't have any use for the rest of it whatsoever in the school system.
so if we can't give it away unless it's a government, can you sell it?
Sure you can.
I want to bring something up before we continue on. I also would like for us to table, the whole thing and give the community the 90 days that they asked for seek and come up with a plan, for what they might be able to come up with. Ms. Betty Sept could not be here tonight, but she was one of the people who did a lot of legwork on the historical classification for which it was Wayne County Training School, then it became Northside High School. I did a little research myself, and I think his name is Marvin Griffin, the plaque that you sent. And I saw that Marvin Griffin was Melvin Griffin, his name. I saw that he served one term in the state of Georgia, and that's from 1955 to 1959. That being said, we know the least the building is 61 plus years old, because Ms. Sapp said she attended there, and those buildings that are kind of standing there now were standing there, at that time. Granted, there are a lot of locations, there are some buildings that were there that are no longer there anymore. Where the annex part of the board office down there, that area actually used to be the where all the mechanics was held, and everything. She also wanted to let you know that the first event that was actually held in the old Martha Ross Smith gym, which was at that time Wayne County Training School, was her husband's funeral. And I actually had a class all day, so my original notes, I actually don't have it, but that was back in 1950-ish, somewhere up in there. Ms. Rosa might be able to help me out with this, because I've been trying to find out how many or if any of the state championships that Ms. Martha Ross Smith won were played in that gym, which she was one of Ms. Martha Ross Smith basketball players. Am I correct? Y'all winning championships in that gym?
I think Betty might have.
Betty might have, yeah, because I think she did say that.
I think Betty's playing.
And there are no, as far as I know, there are no other female state basketball champions in Wayne County for the high school level. As far as I know, somebody else may know somebody from Jessup High School, but as far as I know, that does not exist. She said that the building is on the National Registry, as well as the land. They spent a lot of money. I think she said like $32,000 or something to get all that processed and taken care of. They raised the funds to get that done. So, you know, she would hate to see those efforts just go to waste and be torn down. When the committee originally, I was on the board at the time. I don't think you were on the board yet. When the committee originally came and asked for the facility or use of other facility, that facility had just been kind of updated a little bit because we had, I think it might have been Hurricane Matthew or something came through and coastal plains, the roof was blown off. And so we, you know, kind of did some things so that they could use that wing now that you're talking about that's kind of vandalized, which I talked to Dr. Brinson and I asked, I want to know, you know, why did we not, you know, put up some type of surveillance or video cameras or something to deter, you know, any type of vandalism or anything going on, which is a minor amount of cost. Doesn't cost that much to, you know, to do that. He said that the wires were cut. Well, my thought process is, and I know nothing's 100%, but had we done something like that, no wires may have been cut, and it may have deterred the people from knocking out the windows and, you know, that type of thing. But it is still our property. Also, am I correct that every elementary school has their own auditorium, more or less, the lunchroom auditorium combo? Like the new ones, like James E. Bacon, Martha Ross Smith, and not James E. Bacon, Martha Ross Smith, Scriven, and Odom. Am I correct? They have that.
Auditorium as in,
I mean,
they got a stage and.
they got a stage, exactly. They got a place where they can perform. Okay, they can hold, if they want to do a play, school play, they got a place to do a school play. That's what I'm referring to. And the reason why I brought that up is because, you know, a couple of meetings ago, which I did not object, I voted for it, and I still don't have a problem with it. We voted to replace the seating in the Scriven Auditorium. Well, our kids don't really use the Scriven Auditorium because we have our own place. They have their own gym, their own place, but we did it to help that community out. So what we're asking now is for the same thing in return, and not just the Black community. We feel like it's going to be something that will help all the community. Right now, you know, we talk about our kids, we educate our kids, but right now our teenagers have absolutely nowhere to go, nothing to do. There's nothing. You know, we got the Boys and Girls Club, and it does what it serves its purpose and does what it's supposed to do. It serves up to age like 12 or 13, if I'm not mistaken. But as far as our young kids, there's nowhere for them. But I also talked to Spec at the Echoes at the rec department, and fate would have it, when I talked to him this morning, I ran into him in the post office at 8:29 a.m. So it was meant to run into him. And we had discussed and talked about something like this before. And he started to expound on, yes, if that facility is we take that facility, we can have a place for our basketball and not have to bother the schools. We could have after school tutoring places. The elderly can come back and start doing their pottery, and, you know, the arts committees, you know, that Wayne County Arts, is that what they're called? They can come back and do their things. So it's not just something that they're looking at just to say, okay, we just want a place for just to remember things for the Black community. It's something to be a tangible thing to help our community be able to grow, something to help our kids to be able to mature in a safe, nurturing environment. So, I mean, I just want, you know, you just to think about that. And the school board, as I was told, will not be responsible for those programs or anything. So, you know, I just want us to give the community the chance and the opportunity, now that it's been opened back up, the dialogue has been, reopened to, see what they can come up with.
Coach, I'm gonna speak to that. Mr. McGill, going back and remembering these conversations from 2018. I think one of the things, and I don't know why it wasn't communicated back with you, but it was, now that you brought that to my memory, we talked about a governmental agency had to kind of take on the midst of taking over a building because we couldn't sell it to a private organization. To my memory, one of the conversations that was had when you talk about basketball, when I said, okay, we work with the rec department to take it over, and that could be a way that they could use it from your organization. When we were told, the rec department's response was, we would use it as a storage building. And I said, no, we're not using it as a storage building. If we're going to give it to somebody, they're going to use it to help children. And so that's how that conversation ended with me, that I do know of. Right now, the rec department is storing some things in a few of those classrooms, but I wasn't going to agree to that gym being used as a storage building.
And that was before Spec came on, is what it was. That was the previous.
Well, he was serving as the assistant.
Yeah, but he wasn't the man with the plan. He wasn't the one calling the shots.
And
the one that was calling the shots was the one that wanted to use it as,
the problem with that was the county taking on the amount of whatever was going to need to bring it up to par. I don't know if they were in agreement with that as far as on the county commissioner, county administrator level. And so that's how that conversation kind of ended, and we never discussed it back. Then we moved the board office over there, and then we've kind of, talked about if we're going to rent out the other parts or what we were going to do with the other parts. So that's how those conversations just kind of ended, to the best of my memory, from 2018.
And on the SPLOST, he mentioned that they had SPLOST funding that could help with, get the building, up to code of, whatever needs to be done. How much, I'm not sure. But like I said, that's the conversation that I had with him, this morning, and it's also the conversation that I had with him, I guess about a year ago. I was asking about, that, and he has had, and he also this morning brought up what Tyrone said about Appling County and how they have done their community center over there. He brought that up as well. So he's pretty familiar, with these things and these type of projects and stuff. So I just want us to give them an opportunity, give them a chance to see what they can come up with.
Aren't we using that gym?
We are.
Doesn't wrestling use that gym?
Right.
Let me tell you about that. Hold on. Before, when we asked for everything, nobody was using that gym at that time.
Well, we didn't have a wrestling program at that
No,
time.
let me finish though. Let me finish. Let me tell you the whole story. Wrestling was supposed to go in the old band room. Okay. The cheerleaders, I think, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, the cheerleaders were going to be in the old lunchroom. Although you were written out, they were still going to be in the old lunchroom during that time. That's how everything was being played out. And then it seemed as though once we presented that and came up with that, that's what resolved or evolved. The wrestling ended up, being in there.
Yeah, of course.
Being nonprofit, shouldn't that counteract? It's not private. We nonprofit.
Right. So the way that it was described to me, and Dr. Brinson, you please help me on this legal term, but if we were giving the school property to anybody, it had to be another governmental organization. So like the city or the county. It couldn't be to a profit or a nonprofit or any organization that was not a governmental organization to give the property to.
All right, Toombs County, is Toombs County different from Wayne County? And then as far as what you just said, because I know a board member in Toombs County got the same property that we trying to get to better the community. He got it for $1. And they said the only reason he can get it for $1, he got to maintain it and keep it up.
Yeah, that'd be called a lease.
Yes, is he leasing it or is he own, does he own
He
it?
owns it. He got it for $1. They sold it to him for $1. And I can get
We,
it
we
right.
can, we can sell it to you for $1.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
When the board takes action, we can sell it.
that's what we're trying to,
$5, $1, $50.
that's what we're trying to get. I
Okay.
mean,
We can
got
take
the
action on
resources.
that tonight. Sell it for $1. I didn't think that was something that we wanted to do with taxpayers' money, but if that's, if our mission is shifted more from education to community service, then I don't have a problem with it at all.
The longer we wait, the worse it's gonna get. I mean.
I agree with that 100%, yes, sir.
Well, it's not only just community service. When you look at our kids and also we're dealing with the drug issues and those type of things, it's also gonna help us with our students because now our students are gonna be, if everything goes as planned, our students are gonna be getting the tutorials. You think about a basketball player, football player, when they get done with football and basketball practice, what time is it? In most cases, it's after 5 or 6 o'clock. Our library closes at what time? 5 o'clock. There's nowhere for them to go, some of them, to access a computer. There's nowhere for them to go to get tutorial service or somebody to help them, help them out and everything. So it's not just gonna help just the generalized community. It's a win-win for us because we're looking at providing a service for our students, away from school hours and school time.
I mean, I'm not trying to be simplistic or snide about it, but it's really not a complex issue.
Mhm.
It's our property. Either we sell it or pay the money and get it up to, or somebody pays the money and get it up to at least where we're covered liability wise, and we could lease it. We got it up to speed liability wise where our insurance folks would not be concerned about something bad happening. We could lease it out to a nonprofit for $1 a year or something like that. The whole initial thing is getting it up to speed, getting it up to par. Or you deed it to a governmental agency such as the county or the city, which we've done before and done it for. But that's kind of your option.
Because I still think we need, maybe not 90 days, maybe we could get time, because I think what they're wanting to do is they're wanting to, try to, come up with the funds.
Yeah, there may be grants. There may
grants,
be grants
yeah.
and historical. I don't know, somebody willing to fund that and get it up to speed. I'm not gonna recommend we spend our money. I work at the pleasure of the board, so whatever the board decides, we'll get it done.
Dr. Brinson, here's my thought. Y'all are asking for 3 months, 90 days. That'd be the first of the year. My recommendation would be to give them those 90 days. During that time, we look into the liability, the legal part of ours. Tell them y'all look at grants and whatever and see what you come up with. Now, this ain't gonna be popular, but back, Ms. Daniel was wanting Chromebooks for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
If I gotta choose between Chromebooks for our students or another community center, I'm in the business of the students. I'm gonna support the Chromebooks, you know what I'm saying? I'm just using that as an example. We're hitting a shortfall, and so we don't have the money we had even a year ago. And to me, that would be the most sensible thing. Y'all see if you can get your money, get your grants. I would recommend going there and look at the facility and see if there's something that you really want to undertake. And then if we can work something out with you, I'd like to do it. I mean, we can never build another school there without putting up a Berlin Wall between there and the railroad.
No, I don't see
So-
any use for it.
But I don't want to beat it over for $1 and then it sit there and nothing be done, and then that falls back on the school eventually.
Right, and that was discussions we had, like I said, let's refer it back to, if we deed it to an entity, we no longer have any more control over it.
Yeah,
Okay, what they use it for, they can use it for whatever they want to do.
I'm just saying, if it sits there and deteriorates,
Right.
what recourse do we have then?
Well, I know, we did to the city, I know there's discussions about some of their projects they intended to use some of the property for.
Ooh.
Same thing with the county, so on and so forth, so just want to make sure we understand,
I think,
deeding it over is no longer ours.
I think we, in my opinion, when it was discussed about the cemetery, I wasn't agreeing with that, so. That's another thing I didn't agree to, why I didn't want to deed it over to the city, is because I didn't want it to be a cemetery. So I want it to be used for kids if it's gonna be used for anything, and that's the way I'm gonna stand on that.
But the gym, the lunchroom, to me, we've done the best job of any of preserving history with what's been done on the front and turned it into the board. And the old band room, what you say, mechanic room, there's a lot of history there. I think we've done a good job preserving the front of it. But a lot of that we're still gonna use. We're just looking at basically the three wings, right?
Yes, sir.
So, is there no way to, anywhere else for us to possibly store records that lunchroom area could be used or utilized?
Possibly. I mean, that lunchroom is not the best place, but it's secure, it's serving the purpose. Take the lunchroom back and use that. Getting kind of limited. I mean, every bit of that lunchroom is slam packed with records. It's full with shelves and boxes. But we can move it again. Move it again.
I like what Joe had to say, and I'll put it in the form of a motion, let's have a 90-day fact-finding, time period for both parties to look and see if this is feasible, and, we'll revisit it again in 90 days.
I would double check what I'm saying and make sure it's factual, and then, I suggest the committee look and see what kind of funds that they can come up with, and if they come up partial, and if we decide that we're gonna help get it, just, at least safe. It's not safe right now. Not to mention like heat and air, all of that.
And if it can be done quicker, then quicker we can resolve it, the better. But we're willing to give y'all 90 days to see what kind of grants you can come up with and things. But basically what we're saying, we're not going to spend a whole lot of money, right?
I'll second this motion.
Moving second.
Mr. Allen?
Yes, ma'am.
Davidson?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Harris?
Yes, ma'am.
Daniel?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Tippett?
Yes, ma'am.
Look, real quick, just a capital project update. I'll start with the small ones first. Is the permit, we're waiting on the final invoice. Like I share some information with you through email about purchasing those mitigation credits through the wetland bank. We're waiting on the final invoice. As soon as we get that, we'll pay that, and they'll send us the final permit. So a couple of weeks away. Talked to TQ last week, and even yesterday. There should have some numbers on that Martha Ross Smith. Like I said, that entry. That's a small project, but there's a lot of site prep, moving dirt around and doing that. Looking to start that and get that done fairly quickly, even the paving part. And then that we look to be able to move them right over to the, it's not that, as long as the weather cooperates. You can't get too cold at a certain time.
I want to know, can we have a groundbreaking ceremony? This is a big deal to me. I think it's a big deal to everybody. Ain't it a big deal, you right? Yeah.
Certainly try to put
It's
something
been
together.
something in the making for what, 20 years now?
20
Sure,
years.
at least. No, I think
Is it longer than that?
Yes, 20 years.
Around for 15 to 20
We
years.
said 20 years.
yeah, I'm doing on that before we
Oh,
since
Before
we had
then.
a home track meet, I can tell you. Anyway, so that, met with some of the architect folks today, James E. Bacon. They're here pretty much every other day, trying to finalize some things. They're wrestling with HVAC a little bit. I know y'all want to hear about that. So that we may have a brand new roof on James E. Bacon, really just so the HVAC system's accessible and that sort of thing. And they're working on the design, still working on the design, but we're close there to get some pencil to paper for us numbers. And that should be occurring in the next 3 weeks or so to, again, get that guaranteed maximum price for your approval. And then they can start, they'll be able to start immediately. They're going to have to phase it in there's been talk about going and starting on the gym and the new construction that will, basically, if you think about going into Jessup Elementary, Martha Ross Smith, or Odom, it'll look just like that frontage, you know, where you got pick up, drop off, 2-lane. You come into school, you have your admin, principal office, nurse's office, and then to go right into the big open kind of commons area. That'll be the cafeteria and new lunchroom. They'll be able to begin construction on that immediately. You know, we'll have to shift the playgrounds around and kind of seclude them. Bus traffic and bus pickup is going to be a little challenging, but we'll figure that out. So that'll probably be what's going on during the school year. And as soon as they get that completed, what they can do is move all the office people up in the new area, move the lunchroom people up into the new construction, and continue on, you know, stripping. It's a gut job with everything else in the building throughout, so they can kind of keep going and not be disruptive. Hopefully get on a schedule to get the majority, if not all of it, completed during next summer and be ready for school start. It'll move quickly once they get going. It's not like new construction when you're out there just moving trees and, you know, bringing in dirt. You know, we got that solidified, so it's not going to take 16 months or something like that once they begin. Long time coming, and I'm as anxious as anyone, but that's the update I got. Any questions?
What's these markers out here for? It's like some stakes out here behind the
New bus.
tech center.
I don't know. In the grass area or?
Yeah, in the grass area, so stake right back here, and then further, I think there's one across the road where the old tennis courts used to be.
They must be marking water sewer or something like that for the city. I don't know. I don't think it's any of our work.
Oh,
Well, the entrance will come.
Or it could be. I'm sorry. You know what? Miss
It'll be the new entrance.
Daniel, it could
Come in
be.
right almost beside here.
and go it that way.
They could have called it, the guy to get the water and sewer marked for our engineers, because the queuing lanes as far as pick up and drop off, there'll be like a double lane coming in, running parallel to Orange Street, all the way up, basically from that road that runs next to the tennis courts. There'll be a road coming all the way up to the front of the school, and then there'll be another single road kind of going out right next to the tech center right here.
Okay.
There'll be a new little parking lot right around here for tech center parking. You know how we always have problems with, oh, it's 2:30, you gotta please move your car, and we got training over here with 100 people. So that'll be separate. That's been a design issue, trying to make sure all this traffic's separated. You know, moving the buses to where the front of J&Z Bacon is now to separate them. They can just go right out on Orange Street.
Keep going.
Nobody's headed toward Sunset. Again, they're fixing to 3-lane that here in the next 3 to 5 years. A lot of truck traffic's gonna be directed going back there to the industrial park down Sunset. So we don't want any part of that with our school building traffic.
Okay.
I think we're gonna be pleased, but it's really gonna be a neat project. It's just taking longer than we want.
Dr. Brinson, you're saying the end of, not this coming summer. You think it'll be completed by the end of
I think a good majority of it's
summer
gonna
of
be done.
2021? Wow.
I think a good majority of it will be done. It may not be punch list out, but I think the majority of it will be something like, maybe we just got to do the annex part or the connected to the gym, something like that. That's kind of by itself,
Right.
where you won't disrupt the whole building. We might just place those 4 or 5 classrooms and put them up in the start school in that building, the upper building, what I'm saying, the start school, let them finish maybe for a month or 2, and then we want to move. We might have a lot of extra classrooms in this building. So
Good deal.
I got a good plan. We just got to get the final design and price. Any other questions about that? Stella, that's all I have.
All right, we'll move into executive session to discuss or deliberate upon appointment, employment, compensation, hiring, disciplinary action, or dismissal, or periodic evaluation of a public officer, or to interview applicants for the position of superintendent. Have a motion for executive session.
Move.
Second.
Moved in second.
Mr. Ellis?
Yes, ma'am.
David?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Harris?
Yes, ma'am.
Daniel?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Tippett?
Yes, ma'am.
Ellis.
Yes, ma'am.
Davidson.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Harris.
Yes, ma'am.
Daniel.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Dixon.
Yes, ma'am.
Personnel recommendations for September 22nd, certified resignations, Walt Reedville retirement, 12/16. Classified resignations, Janice Bartram, Martha Ross Smith, paraprofessional, Marcus Shaw, Arthur Williams, middle school. Classified terminations, Petrie, Tilden, transportation. Motion to approve the superintendent's recommendations as presented.
So move.
Second.
Move to second.
Mr. Ellis.
Yes, ma'am.
Davidson.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Harris.
Yes, ma'am.
Daniel.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Dixon.
Yes, ma'am.
Coach Mack.
Glad to be back. Appreciate the prayers.
Yeah.
Appreciate what
Glad you
y'all
are
do.
back. Yes, sir, buddy.
Glad to have you back, Mr. Joe Mack. And like I said before, I'm excited and elated about the projects that are coming up, the track and James E. Bacon, to see that, we get those going and on their way to completion. Good things.
Just glad Brother Joe's with us and doing well. And I'm been very pleased with how things have gone with y'all, what you've done at the board with the students and how the COVID situation has gone. Going to school was the right thing to do, in my opinion.
Same thing. Glad to have you back, Coach Mack.
Thank you.
I'm again proud of what we're doing with the school situation. I am going to tell you that a few of the parents have reached out, and it's a virtual school is a challenge. It's not a cakewalk, as they tell me. So I said, well, we got to make sure that they're getting the highest level, as you say, Coach Daniels, the highest level of education.
That's right.
I had one situation where the parent went and said, I'm bringing mine back to school next week. And they said, no, you got 4.5 more weeks. They said, what are you talking about? I said, you signed the contract. I got 4.5 more. They finding out what teacher's been having to put up.
Yeah, our teachers are pretty good at what they do. Just an announcement, there's a sesquicentennial, the 150-year birthday for Jessup.
I'm glad you said that.
They're planning some events, celebration. Ms. Janet Rowe contacted me, wanted to make sure I announced it. They're doing some school things with coloring contests, the elementary, and some history events at Wayne County High School. They're planning some things. Want to make sure I invited you, or they invited you to, on October 24th, that's a Saturday, 10 o'clock at the Farmers Market. They'll be having a celebration. But I'll remind you that's coming up again. October 24th, 10 o'clock, Farmers Market. That's it.
All right, we'll turn back.
Thank you.